Today, we're diving deep into the healing process, personal growth, and how we can rediscover self-love after experiencing sexual trauma. And before we start, I want to give you a little bit of a trigger warning, because we're going to be discussing sensitive topics like sexual trauma and healing. And if this is a sensitive subject to you, please take care of yourself. Know that you are free to pause and come back to this episode whenever you're ready. This conversation and episode is meant to help you and remind you that you are not alone. At Umaversity, we have experts that can help you, like our guest today. So please don't suffer by yourself and reach out to us. I'm Jo Sarah, and welcome to the Umaversity Podcast, empowering you with real talk, real education, and real stories from our experts and our tribe of women who've got your back.
Yes.
Our mission? Educating 1 billion women worldwide on their mental, body, and sexual wellness journey.
Yeah.
So join me, learn something new as we build our badass tribe. Welcome to another episode of the Umaversity Podcast, and today I have the honor of speaking with Lisa Enik Indrayani, a trauma sexologist and vitality coach. Lisa is dedicated to guiding women and men in their healing journeys after experiencing sexual trauma. Lisa, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited being here.
So what is a trauma sexologist?
I guide women and men on their path of healing after sexual abuse or sexual violence.
And what about a vitality coach? What is that exactly?
A vitality coach is someone who helps you get more vital. It's a very holistic approach. So it's about eating healthy, exercising healthy, but it's also about managing your emotions, your thoughts, how you communicate with yourself and with others. But it also is about, are you happy at the place you work? Do you reach your full potential?
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so how do you combine the trauma sexologist with the vitality coach?
Well, for me, I was a vitality coach first. And then I discovered for myself that you can eat healthy and you can exercise and do all those things on personal development. But 9 out of 10 times there's a trauma beneath all this. In my point of view, you should work on that trauma to, taking steps outside of that in the outer layers.
Exactly. Because I also personally believe that healing sexual trauma and really going into your sexuality and being able to enjoy it instead of hiding and being ashamed of it is such a foundational piece of who everybody is. And if you have healed it and if you are aware of it and not ashamed of it, you can also thrive in every area of your life, actually.
I agree.
That's also the whole reason why there's Umaversity, why we provide education, because if we want gender equality, this is where we should start.
Yeah.
And I really would like to hear your opinion. So why is it important that we talk about sexual trauma and healing?
From society point of view, we prefer to choose to look away. We prefer to not talk about it as if it's not there. But in reality, it is. And we always assume that it's not happening in our own circles. But sexual abuse is common in every layer of society.
I have yet to find a woman that I've spoken to that hasn't experienced sexual trauma.
You know that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 5 or 6 men in the Netherlands only experiences this kind of trauma, so sexual trauma, at one point in their lives.
Do you think it's 1 in 4? Because I believe it's maybe 1 in 2.
The exact numbers aren't accurate. For example, my own experience, I never went to the police. So my case is not mentioned in those numbers.
So the people that experience sexual trauma and haven't actually spoken up about it, they are not in the numbers.
They are not in the numbers.
That's why 1 in 4, I don't think it's accurate at all.
True. And it's also, in addition, it's the spectrum of sexual trauma is very broad. People think that it's only about rapes or stuff like that. But it's also about when you as a kid have to watch an adult having sex with himself or with someone else. That is also sexual abuse. The damage that occurs is the same. And I will refer to him because it's just easier to talk about it.
So are you saying that today we're talking about mostly about sexual trauma that women experience?
Yeah, but also men experience it. And many male victims have women perpetrators.
Interesting.
So the perpetrator can be a he or she.
Yeah.
But just for conversation's sake, I will refer to he. It's easier.
We should definitely discuss this more in society, for sure.
Yeah, we should.
So how did your personal journey of experiencing sexual trauma lead to becoming a trauma sexologist?
Oh, it was a long and interesting road. I was born in Indonesia just over 43 years ago. And I grew up in the Netherlands through adoption with my adoptive Dutch parents. And at the age of 4, I became the answer to my father's sexual needs. And the sexual abuse lasted for years and years. That had a very large impact on my self-image and my beliefs. And it wasn't only the things he did to me, it was also the words he spoke to me. For instance, he told me that because of him, I was still alive. I should be thankful for the fact that he had picked me up from Indonesia. And that has led me to believe for most of my life, actually, that I have to live my life in service to others just to feel some sort of existence, as though my existence, it wasn't there at all. So yeah, that was very impactful to me. Yeah.
I'm so sorry that this happened to you.
Thanks. It's okay now. It's okay. I'm not a victim.
And why do you say you're not a victim?
Because I went through the whole process of healing. And after all these years, I finally managed to separate the perpetrator from him as a person. And my father also was, like many perpetrators, once a victim himself. I want to use my story, I want to use my experience, not only my personal experience, but also from the point of view of a trauma sexologist, to help others and to let other women know that they are not alone. And that you need to talk about it. The first step in this healing process is break the silence.
Do you have any tips for women on how to take that first step?
It's hard to take a first step, right? You can doubt for years and years, and then there's a moment that you feel inside you that this is the time to step forward. And no one can do that for you. But find your courage, find your voice, and find someone you trust, or find a trauma sexologist and talk. Speak up.
How can you take that first step? By breaking the silence towards your family, towards people that you trust, let's say, because also family can be perpetrator. But I mean, how can you take that first step on speaking and breaking the silence to people you love and trust?
Well, for most people, your inner circle, so your and family or friends, is too big. So then I would say find a coach, a trauma sexologist to talk to. I especially have set up a telephone line where women and men anonymously can call and talk about their experience.
And who will they speak to?
To me, and to me, they are a stranger.
Yeah.
So that might feel less stressful, or
less of a risk,
less overwhelming.
And you said that you never spoke up about it to, for instance, the police or justice. What was the reason that you never did that?
I think it was misloyalty, because he was my father. I didn't want to ruin him, but I also didn't want to break up the family. I felt very, very responsible for keeping everything together. And I think what I felt is very common when you have this experience, is that you feel ashamed and you feel guilty.
Yeah.
All reasons why you don't speak up.
And do you know where this feeling of shame and feeling dirty comes from? Because we hear this a lot, But I always wonder, where does it come from? Because once we know where it comes from, we can also be more aware of it.
Yeah, it all starts with awareness indeed. What is important to know is that the damage that occurs in the very first moment that you as a child experience when you are being touched on a sexual base by an adult. And what happens is that the perpetrator, he tears up your self-protection mechanism, and he pushes away your no, so your ability to say no, and he pushes that away so that his needs take priority, and your needs are in the background. So the perpetrator gets powerful himself, and the child leaves powerless. And then there's this shocking event. The shocking event leads to not being able to feel ownership of your own body. And the only thing your brain can do is dissociate. So, it's the oldest self-protection program we have.
Yeah.
And the brain shuts down so that you don't feel the pain and the fear. And it's the only way for you to survive.
Yeah.
And then there is the sexual imprint. The sexual acts makes the perpetrator even more powerful. His preference is fixations, the sexual acts, but also the surrounding, the gender that is imposed. It all leads to a sexual imprint. And as a child, you are not ready for adult sexuality. You have your own sexual development to go through, right? Due to the adult sex, your own development is being accelerated or it's being halted, but in every way it gets interrupted. And that leads to the third event. You get pseudo-adult, because as a child, you're not ready to carry this adult problem. You're not ready for the adult sex. You are being put up with emotions and thoughts of an adult that you're not ready to deal with. It certainly isn't yours to carry. And it's also certainly not yours to solve. And this is all shrouded in secrecy. My father told me, shh, this is a secret, you cannot tell anyone. But it's not only the verbal communication. As a kid, you sense that there's something wrong, but you cannot put your head around it.
Yeah.
Right?
But not put your finger on it.
Put your finger on it. That causes, your self-protection, losing ownership of your body, the adult sex. It all leads to feeling ashamed, feeling guilty. Guilty that you weren't able to stop it. Your inner structure gets divided by the moment the perpetrator does all these things with you. We have an outer structure, your bones and everything, but we also have an inner structure. And that inner structure gets divided. And the shocking thing is that the perpetrator resides as a parasite within your own inner structure. And the perpetrator is the one that decides when, to whom, and to what you can say yes or no. He has fully all control over you.
Yeah.
And that leaves you again powerless. Even more shocking is that the perpetrator doesn't have to be in your life anymore, but still can have full control over your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors. It's really a very complex trauma. It's a very paradoxical trauma. Yeah. It's the shocking event bound to a sexual experience. And we find a lot of contradiction within this trauma. For example, I went out into the world with this trauma. I sought out men that use or abuse me because that is what my inner structure knew. And my self-protection program was faulted. And it was almost as if I was walking around with an invitation, handing over, saying, here, you can use me, but please love me for just a second. And that isn't really a very healthy basic for a relationship. But I didn't know how to have a good relationship with myself. So how could I have a healthy relationship with others? I didn't know what that was.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know the difference between sex and intimacy. But what I do know or knew is that, the plate of sex is eaten very quickly. And then there's this void inside that has to be filled again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where addictions come in. And it's not only the drugs and alcohol addictions, it's also addicted being in fully control, healthy eating, exercising too much, but also workaholic, and the taboo within the taboo. And I really want to discuss this because it's very important. The taboo within this taboo is that a lot of people who have a sexual trauma experience, they have porn addictions, compulsive masturbation. Sex influences their lives completely. And that's very contradicting, but they feel very ashamed about it.
Mm.
It leads to living out your sexuality to a maximum, that is not healthy.
Yeah.
But it can also turn the other way around when you become asexual. So you don't want to be touched. You cannot touch yourself. You cannot have sex with yourself. You're afraid of intimacy. So it's, again, there you see the contradicting facts.
Yeah, actually, I spoke to a lot of women who've experienced sexual trauma, and I see these two. It's either they become asexual or they become super sexual, and they're just like, they have no control of how they give their bodies, and they go to extremes sometimes without knowing their own integrity. Yeah, this is something that I've seen for sure.
And this is because the brain needs to understand what happened.
Yeah.
But as a child, no one ever told me why it happened. But your brain wants to understand. So as you grow older, you unconsciously seek out the same scene over and over again.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of people live out their damage in compulsive sex, things like that.
What is the reason why this programming is there? You've experienced sexual trauma, and then you have, let's say, these two extremes.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that the case?
Because the perpetrator occupies your inner structure.
What is the inner structure exactly? What do you mean by that?
Your values, how you feel, how you think, how you behave, your boundaries. It's very hard to know your own boundaries if there's someone else saying, no, you are not allowed to say no.
Yeah. It's something that I've actually been researching myself because I don't remember it happening, but my whole body and my subconscious has been reliving a memory until up a certain point. And it's been coming back and back, and I'm really diving deep into my own healing journey. And until recently, I realized, I think there's something more. Your soul just feels it, but I don't remember it.
That's because big chance that during the event, you dissociated. So you're blocked. So your head goes up, and your body is, you're disconnected from your body, which is also why the disconnection in your throat chakra. But because of the dissociation, you cannot fully remember. But your body stores trauma, and your body remembers the trauma. And through physical signs or discomfort, it wants you to reconnect with the trauma. It's almost as if it's demanding, your body is demanding that you need to work on your trauma.
Yeah.
Because the body knows every single detail. It's surprising, but I work with Psychodrama and chair constellations, family constellations. And every time one of my clients is in such a chair constellation, the body knows exactly where to sit, how to move, or how not to move. The body swallows away. If my client doesn't want to speak about it or find it hard to discuss a certain topic within the trauma, I see my client swallowing or coughing. That's a sign from the body. Everything is a sign from your body.
The body keeps score.
The body keeps score, definitely.
Because I have a very rare condition with my esophagus. I have this inner knowing for the last couple of years that it's emotional trauma. And now I'm making space for that healing and then really diving into what it is. And it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of willingness also. It's super scary, but I never thought it would lead me to here. But this memory keeps coming back. And so, yeah, thank you for explaining how this can happen when you don't remember. Yeah. But you know something happened. Yeah. You have a feeling something happened. And what I've also noticed, and for all the women out there that are experiencing this as well, is what I've been doing is I've been telling myself, oh no, but you're not a woman like that. You haven't experienced this. No. You're not, this didn't happen to you. Yeah. And I've been actually gaslighting myself while I'm in this healing journey, because I cannot believe that this could have happened to me.
Society pressure that's saying no, it doesn't exist. And we are raised in this world with this point of view in some way, to some extent, right?
Yes.
Which causes you to say, no, I'm not like that. I'm not a victim.
We talk about victimhood, and the thing is that what I see a lot is that society always blames the victim, and we don't do anything about the perpetrator. Of course, there's a justice system, but it's not, of course, airtight. And a lot of the times, society or people blame the victim. Oh yeah, but you were wearing this. Or why was she at that location? Or why did she do this? As if you can prevent being raped, you know?
It's 100% gaslighting. You should be able to decide what you wear and how you behave in normal sense. And no is no, even if you started with a yes.
Exactly. You can always say no whenever you want.
Yeah.
One of the biggest steps that we can take as society is by teaching kids about boundaries and consent.
True.
Because if kids know, hey, but this is actually across my boundaries and I didn't consent to this, when they know these terms and when they know what it looks like, they also know what it doesn't look like.
Right.
And that's why I think sexual education should include this.
Yep.
And we should start very early. When I have a kid, I will teach my kid this the first thing, because I never want my kid to experience sexual trauma.
So it's our job to educate our children.
Yeah.
From that perspective, I see it as my soul's purpose, my life's mission, to educate people on the damage and the consequences of sexual abuse. So to break the silence and not labeling it as a taboo anymore.
Yeah, or sometimes I feel like it's become such a almost normal thing. Oh yeah, I've also experienced it. Because when we're in a room sometimes with Umaversity, with a room full of women, and like the majority, I would say 90% almost, has experienced sexual trauma. And it almost becomes like, oh, because we've all experienced it, it should not be the case at all. I want to do something about it. And of course, what I'm doing for myself is investigating this, and with tips and experts like you, I can, because I also not want to do it only for myself, but also as the leader of Umaversity, I want to be able to show my healing journey and also be able to lead in a healthy way. But also, when I have a kid, that I don't give this trauma to my baby, because I also hear a lot about the sexual trauma staying in the womb. Can you explain a bit more about that?
So we're discussing transgenerational trauma.
Yeah.
Researchers have shown us that sexual abuse is already in our ancestral line.
Yes.
We give our children and our grandchildren and so forth, we give parts of our own sexual abuse trauma. And maybe that's, at least for me, that was a very a big push to start my healing process.
Mm-hmm.
It stops with me.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was my biggest motivation. It stops with me.
That's very powerful.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. I'm on the same page with that.
I get goosebumps when I say that.
Yeah. Yeah, same. I felt it as well. We do have the power and the control to choose to start healing.
Yeah. And I also feel as if it's our responsibility to do for the next generation.
You talk a lot about setting boundaries and reclaiming self-love.
Mm.
And for women who struggle to set their own boundaries after sexual trauma, how can you help them to reclaim and recognize their own limits?
Mm. Well, then again, it first starts with awareness.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have a clear picture on what is exactly the damage. And then with that picture comes awareness.
Mm.
And then through psychodrama and the chair constellations, we all people and we all every day stage what we do,
mm-hmm.
what we seek for, what we want, what we desire. That becomes very clear during a session. And then, I can tell you, Jo Sarah, you need to set your boundaries, right? And you need to communicate them to the outside world.
Yeah.
But that doesn't help.
No.
You need to feel what you're doing every single day. You need to feel when people are crossing your boundaries and the moment that you let them. So it's all about awareness, and that becomes clear during the sessions.
Mm.
And after that, when you know what you're doing, you can change it.
Yeah, because you're aware of it.
Because you're aware of it.
So it's first like, what does my boundaries actually look like?
Mm-hmm.
And that's through experiencing and being more aware of it.
Yeah.
But also learning, hey, actually, did you know that this is actually a boundary? This is
True.
not okay that this happens to you.
Plus the fact that there is still a big part inside you that knows.
Mm. The body knows.
The body knows. The body knows, no, this I don't want. And yes, but that is what I do want.
And how do you help women to tune into what the body is saying when the body is actually speaking after sexual trauma?
Well, I also do breath work.
Mm-hmm.
I use meditation and visualization techniques also. And I think that helps a lot.
So really tuning into your body and taking a moment.
Yeah, maybe a few moments.
Yeah, I think it's not a one moment thing for sure. So we have a question from the community.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear it.
I've been through sexual trauma, and although I've started therapy, I still feel disconnected from my body. How can I start to feel safe and at home in my own body again?
It starts with breaking the silence and be proud of every single step that you take during your process and that it stops with you. You are working, you are committed. Be proud of that. Every step is important, even if those are small steps. You're moving towards healing, towards a life in freedom without fear.
That's beautiful. So like showing yourself self-compassion and pride and love.
Right.
What did you do to show that to yourself? Like what are like little actions that you did or words that you said or thoughts that you had to show yourself that self-compassion?
Well, actually, it's quite funny because what I still often do is I stand in front of a mirror and then I looking into my own eyes and I try to name all the positive things I see within myself. And not the negative things, but the positive things, like I've come a long way. And although I'm still learning, I'm doing. And that's more than not doing anything. But also treating myself with a nice cup of coffee, or treating myself by saying no to an invite to a birthday party. I'm very I'm very introvert. I really don't like birthday parties. So that's a treat.
Mm-hmm.
No, today I need time for myself, time to be in silence, and I give myself space. That's also self-love.
You really choose to spend time with yourself.
Yeah, falling in love with myself.
And how did that process look like for you? Because you realized you experienced sexual trauma, of course. Mm-hmm. You broke the silence.
Mm-hmm.
Did you seek an expert help, or did you tell your close ones? What happened?
My journey started in 2013, so that's quite a few years ago. And sometimes I took a lot of steps and then it paused for a long period of time. Yeah, I sought help with experts, but I also went through a lot of trainings, workshops, educating myself, reading a lot of books.
Did you have any support also?
Not always. The moment I told my family, or my mom actually, she was my biggest support.
What would you advise women that experienced sexual trauma to find, like, of course, an expert that can help you, or experts? Maybe read books. What else would have wanted to have in that period?
Honestly, I wanted to have someone like me. Someone I could recognize something within myself, someone who acknowledged my pain. And I went to a psychologist, but that person didn't really fully understand what I was going through. I needed someone like me. I needed a trauma sexologist.
Did you share or find other women that experienced also sexual trauma and that you could share with, or that you could talk to?
Yeah, it's a strange thing, but I believe that, we all have our energy that we are sharing with the world. And for some reason, I see in someone's eyes if they are connected, in the sexual abuse trauma, if they had experienced it as well. There's something in the energy that is matching. So a lot of friends of mine went through the same thing. And when I started working in this field, I see it everywhere. Yeah. Everyone.
Actually, last night I even experienced the connectedness between women. We were with some women from Umaversity, from the community, and we all started sharing. And it was so powerful to share and to share where we were in our healing journey, but also just having someone to listen and to understand. That was very powerful.
Yeah, just listening to someone's story that feels like your own can give you a sense of feeling less lonely.
The loneliness can make everything even worse, and it can make the suffering even harder, right?
Right.
And so you do a lot with group therapy. What is the benefit of group therapy as a sexual trauma survivor?
Well, you learn from others. You learn through other people's experiences. And there's always something in their story, in their experience, that leads to your own experience or a part of it.
Yeah.
You learn from the dynamics, the group dynamics. And it's also good to be within a group to set your boundaries again from a healthy point of view. And then you can practice in a sense that in a connection with other people.
And also in safety.
In safety, yes, of course.
And so you have been on your healing journey, and you've helped a lot of other women and men in their healing journey.
Yeah.
What are the outcomes of your healing journey? Like, I want to also give some hope to women.
Yeah. There is hope.
Yeah, exactly. So can you talk a little bit about what comes during and after healing, Yeah. What does it look like?
What my clients give me in feedback is that they finally are at peace with themselves. They don't feel the chaotic thing anymore in their body, in their head. They're not disconnected anymore from their bodies. They feel more at ease. They have healthy boundaries. They have a healthy aggression mechanism. They understand themselves. And they can also communicate that to the outside world, to their partners, their friends, their families. At work, it's really a a new life.
That's very beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
That's very beautiful.
And every woman and every man should have it, should experience it.
Everybody deserves
yeah,
to feel peace in their body and being connected to their body and to heal from sexual trauma.
And live a happy life.
I also want to give some tools to people that know someone who has experienced sexual trauma. What is something they can do to show support?
First of all, listen. And listen not only with your ears, listen with your heart. And give that person space and time to heal and to do that on their own terms. And be there when you're needed. You know, it's not a quick fix. It's not a pill I can give you and overnight it disappeared or whatever. Healing takes time and effort and commitment. It's not easy, but it's worth it.
That's a very beautiful last tip, and thank you so much for your sharing your story.
You're welcome.
And for your incredible courage to share it as well. I really hope that this episode has helped you to take that first step to healing. And just know that you are not alone. We're here to help at Umaversity and have experts like Lisa who are there for you. If you want to contact Lisa, you can find her information below. I want to close this episode with something beautifully positive. I want to do some affirmations. And I will say the affirmations, and then you can repeat after me. And these affirmations are really meant for you to just say to yourself every day. And I encourage you, because the power of affirmations is really strong. And it's a positive self-love thing that you can do for yourself. So repeat after me. I am reclaiming my power, one step at a time. I deserve to feel loved, feel safe, and feel whole in my body. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed this video, it would be amazing if you could give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to learn even more, join our community. Connect, share, and learn by joining our online and offline events. Be part of our WhatsApp community where you can meet other women and ask your burning questions to our experts, and by subscribing to our weekly educational newsletter. The links are all below, so feel welcome to join our Umaversity tribe.